All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. And I saved the best for last, as you can see. Name of the company we're looking at is STEM Incorporated, ticker symbol STEM, listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. The stock closed a touch below $1, up about 0.5% here going into these earnings. And we can see now we are at new all-time lows down here at about 55 cents. Looks like we hit a low of 54, touch below 54 right there. And now we're flattening out here at about 55, 56 cents. You can see the stock is down about 44% after hours. And if we look at these numbers here, I mean, the company yet again reports a massive loss. But this, in my opinion, we spoke about this, and I personally wasn't really looking on the loss side. We knew that the company was going to continue to operate at a loss, right? But my main catalyst here, the reason why I thought that this company would be able to turn it around is because we spoke about that growing backlog going from, 1.2 billion up to 1.6. It hit above 2 billion. They're saying it's still sitting at about like 1.6 billion, I believe. But unfortunately, the revenue is just not coming in. And I was basically, I was predominantly bullish, I will admit. And again, the reason being is because I was just waiting for that backlog to translate into revenue. And then, we see estimates of 64 million. I was expecting like 75, 80 million. And then next quarter, if they're looking for like 90, I thought they were going to come in with like 110, 120. And I just thought the revenue was really going to start coming in. And technically, this is a big miss, as you see on the top and bottom line. They posted a loss of 3.59 a share on estimates of about 20 cents a share. But the revenue, again, came in almost 50% light here, 34 million on estimates of a touch over 64 million. And the main concern, though, believe it or not, see, I said in my opinion last earnings, I said that this earnings, or maybe the following earnings, I said that STEM potentially has 1 to 2 quarters to really turn it around. Otherwise, they might be done. And the problem is, a lot of people are looking at these numbers and they're saying, oh, they missed again. The stock sucks. It's down big. I appreciate where you're coming from. But believe it or not, in my opinion, I don't think that this is even the real issue, as crazy as that sounds. It's this. STEM names new CFO. And that, in my opinion, raises big red flags, because it kind of leads everyone to believe that you may have had the wrong person in there for the right job. You may have actually had someone who maybe didn't know what they were doing. They weren't truthful. They weren't upfront and straightforward. And now they're out. And the problem is, as you're consistently missing on earnings and not delivering for shareholders, but you continue to try to kind of paint this optimistic picture, oh, backlog's growing, everything's going to be good. And they were talking about like positive free cash flow or something for 25. Of course, we know all of that can still happen. But at the end of the day, with the revenue not coming in, and now with another consistent dismal quarter, you just randomly come out and say, oh yeah, we're getting rid of the CFO and we're swapping board members here. In my opinion, that is what really added to the sell-off here. Because a pullback here from, a dollar down to 80 cents, yes, it's drastic and it's technically a 25% drop. But now dropping over 40%, in my opinion, I think it was the news of the CFO. So it's very unfortunate, because we all have kind of seen this story where, we could have been pumped on a stock. We gave them the benefit of the doubt. They didn't deliver. We end up taking, a 50, 70, 80% loss on the position. And then what happens? Then a quarter or two later, they bottom out. All of a sudden, they're able to beat earnings. And then the stock rallies back up to $1, $2. Meanwhile, you sold down here. But the way I'm looking at it, again, first of all, we personally had a lot of weight on this quarter because the stock came down to $1, sub $1, even going into these earnings. And I mentioned, in my opinion, the possibility of a potential reverse stock split. Now with the stock down here at about 50 cents, I think a stock split is inevitable. I think that more people may jump on board and continue to short this stock. I think, in my opinion, I think it's done. In my opinion, I think it's done. And again, it's really unfortunate. It really is unfortunate because, of course, we get some calls right, we get some calls wrong. But for the most part, most of the stocks we look at, we're bringing in decent revenue. Some earnings were hits, some were misses. Obviously, every company, each company is different and some are more consistent than others. But what I was really waiting for was a beat to actually come in on STEM and just kind of reinvigorate the stock a little bit, right? Get it back trending, get it back in that spotlight. And unfortunately, the company just consistently fails to deliver. And I know some people speculated in the Discord saying, oh, if like Kamala Harris wins, they might have a leg to stand on. I don't know, honestly. I really don't think it matters who is the president, what policies we have going on. I really don't think it matters at this current moment because I think that we are going to see lower lows. I do think the stock is going to drop into the 40-cent range, potentially even the 30s. And again, even with that growing backlog, I know that was their biggest selling point, but they are just not delivering for shareholders. And I know a lot of people mentioned even like a quarter or two ago that they're fed up, they were holding for a while. The board keeps sugarcoating these dismal numbers. They keep missing earnings. So they just sold the stock. They didn't want to look back. Obviously, it's all hindsight. Those people made an absolutely phenomenal call and didn't continue to go down with the ship. And again, I admit it was more of a speculative play, and I know I did a lot of updates, and I was pretty much bullish on it the whole time. But again, I was going off of a lot of the figures that we had available. And I know people are going to say, well, they were operating at a loss, and, some of the margins, widened towards the loss side, and you saw like the book value slowly going down. I appreciated all of that. But again, gave the company the benefit of the doubt. And we know how it is with a stock like this, right? Because if a lot of people are betting against it and no one's very bullish, then technically we do have high risk, but we also have that potential high reward on the horizon. And that's why I kind of stayed on top of STEM because, again, I was just giving him the benefit of the doubt, just waiting for that backlog to start trickling in and the company to just start beating revenue estimates 1, 2, 3 quarters in a row. And then, before you know it, we slowly start to climb up here, 170, 180, and then we break up into the twos if we have a couple of winning quarters, right? But as you see, just consistent red here. And we just had the big miss here. And again, last quarter, they had another big miss. Revenue, 66 million. The company posts only 25 million. Losses exceeding expectations. And then the same thing the previous quarter, right? Decent revenue coming in, but missed the mark by almost 100 million, over 30%. Just consistent misses here. This was the last beat. It was this time last year. The company beat on EPS and on revenue, and the stock ended up going down. Whoops, moved my trend line. Stock ended up going down regardless. And then, obviously, we're followed with 4 dismal quarters. And even before that, you can see we were a little mixed. We had a miss, a little mixed, right? And then a beat. So that's why, like, I feel like kind of maybe like around here is when we started looking at the stock here on this channel. And this is why I was saying, looking at these mixed earnings, sometimes the numbers are hot, sometimes they're not. This is why during this time I was looking at the growing backlog, and silly me, I was actually taking the company at their word, and I was expecting that growth to come in. And, unfortunately, it just doesn't pan out like that sometimes. And, even something like Intel, I know we looked at the numbers like a couple of weeks back. I took a few minutes, I looked at Intel. In my opinion, looking at the balance sheet and everything, I thought that the stock would hold steady and it could be a nice long-term turnaround story. And then what happens? They come out, they completely have a dismal report, right? They're laying off workers, they cut the dividend. It's like every negative catalyst comes out all at once, and then the stock just absolutely falls off a cliff. And it's unfortunate, but again, we have to work with what we got. And again, it was a rough situation because I'm sure a lot of people are going to come out now with their hindsight. Oh, yeah, see, I told you so. I told you so. Again, if the company actually beat earnings here, stock might have immediately shot up to like 170, $2 a share. Because I know that a lot of people jumped on board the short side. And unfortunately, the company just was not able to deliver. And now we're down here at whatever, 57 cents or whatever it is. So it's very simple, in my opinion. Again, this is not financial advice. Whatever you do with this information is entirely your own prerogative. This is just my opinion. I had a very, very, very tiny amount of STEM shares. And, I looked at it the same way you guys were looking at it. And that's why I said they have 1 to 2 quarters to turn it around. Otherwise, they're done. After reading what I read, seeing the numbers miss, all of a sudden the CFO's out, they're bringing in someone new. In my opinion, I am most likely going to cut my position. Now, obviously, some of you have much, much larger position than I do, and you're probably taking a very big hit here if you sell. So, unfortunately, we all have different objectives. We all have different financial situations. So, it really depends on how badly you need that money. And if you have other income coming in, then you're consistently funding your account. If you have a bunch of other positions and they're holding up pretty well and, their numbers are solid, so you can just hold on to STEM and whatever happens, happens, then of course, more power to you. If this was, one of 3 or 4 positions, I'm sure that this one is now probably performing the worst and is down big for you since you bought it. So if you do want to cut the position and just take this big loss and just kind of move on, in my opinion, I would understand. Because, again, the company can potentially turn it around 2, 3, 4 quarters from now. And, like a year from today, you might turn around and the stock is at $2. And then, of course, you're going to say what everyone else says. I sold it at the low at 56 cents, and now, of course, it's back up to $2. I should have just held, blah, blah, blah. But we know that that is all hindsight. And unfortunately, based on the recent track record of this company and what they've been reporting, if we put the bulk of our chips betting that they're going to miss earnings next quarter and not beat them, we probably have like an 80-90% probability of being correct in that call. Because this company has really been dropping the ball the last 3 or 4 quarters. So, again, even if the stock ran up to $5, I literally would have made a couple of bucks. I mean, I literally only have a handful of shares, but I know some of you are more heavily involved than I am. But I always said on this channel, whether the stock goes up, down, or sideways, and we get the call correct, incorrect, or it doesn't move, I always said I would come on, I would do updates, right? I wouldn't hide from you guys. It's not like I wasn't going to do an update on STEM just because they were down big and I turned out wrong, right? We know this. We get some right, we get some wrong. And it's just very unfortunate that we're dropping over 40+% because I was really pulling for some beats that the company would be able to string together and finally come out and say, hey, listen, we got losses in check, revenue's coming in above estimates, we're starting to see the backlog revenue come in, we're upping guidance next quarter or maybe next year. And unfortunately, you just never hear a situation like that. We're consistently seeing big misses, especially on the revenue side the last couple of quarters. And, the board comes out and they're like, oh, yeah, listen, I know it sucks, but, everything could be okay and we'll be fine. And they reiterated again, I believe, that they're not talking about, issuing any new equity. But my main concern here, probably going to be a reverse stock split coming soon. And we see what happens when a company reverse stock splits, right? It spikes up on the price adjusted movement, and then you kind of start to see the immediate drops down and the sell-offs after it gets that price adjustment. So that's why I know this is bad, but if the reverse split comes and the company isn't able to turn it around in next quarter, in my eyes, I think it's only going to get worse. So as much as it might really sting, I think it might be a wise decision, in my opinion, to maybe just cut the position and just kind of move on to something else. But yeah, I think I bought my shares at like 180 or $2 or something like that. So again, I as I said, if I like a position, and I talk about it, if I have a few bucks, I'll put my money where my mouth is. And again, we're dead wrong on this situation. We're down over 40%, and you see me here. I'm not hiding from anyone. I'm here. I'm making the video, and because hiding and sticking your head in the sand doesn't help anybody. That's something I learned a long time ago. But this market cap is now, well, it's going to be like 100 mil. It's going to be sub 100 million. The losses are extreme, and like I said, the revenue just, oh man. If they were able to come out and say, yeah, listen, we took a big loss this quarter, but like I said, we posted 75, 80 million in revenue. In my opinion, you believe it or not, you may have actually seen a stock go up. But here it is just consistent dismal report after consistent dismal report. STEM made several leadership changes. CFO effective September 2nd. Stepping down, will continue to work with the software company. Yeah, Bush's move is unrelated to the company's financial results. In my eyes, that's BS, in my opinion. I think that this is exactly the reason why they potentially forced this person to step down. Executive chair, what partner CEO. Chief strategy officer role. Leaving the company and will be assumed. Swung to a loss and posted lower revenue. Bookings fell, backlog increased. See, that's what really chaps my ass here. Every single freaking quarter we looked at this stock, they talk about the increase in backlog. But now all of a sudden the CFO is out, right? They eliminated this guy's role. Chief strategy officer, that's it. This guy Patel is out now. I don't know. It just seems like it's unfortunate, and I don't want to go into theories, but I don't know. I don't know. This company may run into class action lawsuits, because we see that with a lot of companies, right? I know, again, ASTS, I know, has been on the up and up. It's been exploding like crazy the last month or so. Finally got some good news, right? They finished up their satellites. Now they're going to deliver them. But that company even got a couple of class action lawsuits just because people felt that they misled investors about the timeline, right? Now, for all we know, something like STEM, I mean, you can basically make your case almost for any potential suit that you want to bring to this company, whether it's misleading investors about the growth of the business, misleading investors about timelines, misleading investors about, cutting operating costs and getting losses in check, misleading investors about whatever, the professionalism of the board, apparently, because now we're eliminating roles, we're replacing the CFO. And that's what I mean, because I know a lot of you were in, this stock 2020, end of 2020. So I know a lot of you were in, like, back here. And it's just been nothing but down and down. So this is why I'm saying that this company may potentially run into a lot more negatives than even what we're seeing here. And I know that might be hard to believe, but that's why I'm saying, in my opinion, there's probably a very good chance that they're probably going to miss earnings again 3 months from now. The fact that the CFO stepped down, in my opinion, is a big red flag, or they got rid of them, whatever they want to tell us the story is. They eliminated the chief strategy role. Um, and they still try to push that backlog. I don't know. Honestly, it really throws me for a loop. And I know I'm actually sitting here like stuttering, and it seems like I'm all over the place. And it's unfortunate, again, because I didn't really have a large position. So again, to be 100% honest with all of you, if it's down big and I'm personally not hurting too much. What bothers me more is how incorrect I was with this company. That's what really bothers me. Because I was kind of raised by a man who strives for perfection. And again, even though I do make some bad calls, I'm predominantly more correct than incorrect. So, if STEM earnings have been coming out the last couple of quarters and they were like hit and miss and the stock goes up and then the stock goes down, then we can say, hey, it's not consistent. Maybe we should move on to something else. But the fact that the company just completely keeps absolutely shitting the bed. Look, we got sirens going by as I'm flipping out. The fact that we have a company that is completely shitting the bed, trying to make it seem like everything's okay, trying to consistently reassure shareholders, and then just completely dropping the ball like this. I mean, this is worse than Intel. This is absolutely, without a doubt, this is worse than Intel. And I know a lot of you were saying, wow, Intel was bad. You sure this is worse than Intel? Trust me when I tell you, in my opinion, this was worse than Intel. So, and this is what I was afraid was going to happen. This is why I said, as the stock approaches $1, if they miss again, Wall Street is really going to beat it up. And that's why I said 3 months ago, you may only have 1 or maybe 2 quarters for the stock to turn it around. Otherwise, you're going to have to potentially cut it and just move on. And I have to admit, I really do think that's the play. So, again, people are talking about a potential market sell-off here and that we're just beginning. So, usually that means basically every stock you look at is going to start to come down a little bit in value. But again, we looked at a lot of other stocks on this channel that are kind of near these cheap prices of just like a couple of dollars a share, and potentially repositioning whatever capital left, potentially repositioning it into another company like a Fubo or Soundhound, or I know we just spoke about Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce beating earnings again, announced that they're going to now reinstate the dividend. So, that's what I mean. They say no crying over spilled milk, but we know we all cry when we get a call wrong and we're sitting here with a big loss. So, if you wanna pile it all on me in the comments section, like I said, I don't hide from anyone. I'll take it on the chin. Fair enough. Again, not hiding from anyone, not trying to act like, oh, this isn't as bad as it seems. No, it's bad. It's bad. It was a bad call. Seems like a bad company. Seems like a bad board of directors. So this is just bad. But again, hopefully the bulk of what we look at will work out over time, as opposed to STEM, of course. And again, like I said, I try to be more right than I'm wrong, and I try to, I want to hear that you all are up after several months, several years, and, not taking big dips. And again, you guys know that I like to look at the numbers, and I like to look at stocks that are fundamentally sound, right? So we kind of knew that this was more of a speculative play. We have a company that's kind of hit and miss on earnings. We had a company that, is only worth a couple of $100 million. They're operating at a loss. So we need to know which plays are more speculative, which plays are a little bit more solid. But if any news comes out on STEM, obviously I'll make an update video. If anyone feels that they're going to continue to hold shares, I'll make updates as we go along if any news is released. But in my opinion, this is just a really, really disappointing quarter, and I was feeling pretty down and out last quarter, and I said to myself, one more quarter should be make or break. And again, it seems like that's what happened. Down here, sub 60 cents, down 40% with potential reverse stock split now on the horizon. RSI is going to drop well below 30. MACD is going to continue to trend downward. Again, we're now at new all-time lows. We're below trend lines. So just like when a stock runs up to new all-time highs and they say, oh, it's in uncharted waters, it can go anywhere. Unfortunately, the downside kind of works out the same way. So that's why I'm saying just because it's down to 57 doesn't mean it's going to stop there. And it can keep going. It can drop to 37. It could drop to 27 if they really want to beat it up. And I know some people in the Discord were trying to be optimistic. Oh, you know, they might have some patents on the back burner. Maybe they can get bought out. Again, chances are, even if someone comes out tomorrow and says, oh, you were just at $1 and you dropped down hard, we'll give you $1. Chances are probably most of us watching the video would still be down, even if they took the dollar buyout bid offer. So, you know, of course, anything can happen. But in my opinion, if the company is able to turn this around, you're probably going to be holding at least for a year or two. Excuse me, at least for a year or two. And also, I know that this company's more in like the solar energy sector, and it's unfortunate because I know for a fact that if Donald Trump gets back in, I know they're talking, you know, drill baby drill, and he's going to start drilling, and it's going to be more about oil and natural gas. So I'm not necessarily confident that STEM would see a climb with the new administration. You understand what I'm saying? But again, that's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you got this call correct and you were saying, you know, on the last couple of videos, like, oh, you know, you wouldn't be a buyer, you wouldn't be a buyer. I mean, listen, you guys know you have carte blanche in the comment section, so, you know, you can brag a little bit, you can call me out. You can talk about, you know, how you shorted it at, you know, $3 and you look like a genius. Again, I'm not hiding from anybody, but it's just very unfortunate because, again, we know the saying, high risk, high reward. And while this was very risky, if this company was able to actually deliver, we would have seen a big explosion and we all would have felt like rock stars. And unfortunately, STEM just does what it's been doing best, which is just missing earnings, disappointing shareholders. And now that's what I mean. Now all of a sudden, you miss earnings by a mile and you're telling me the CFO is out. You got rid of this other board member. I just, in my opinion, that looks terrible. That looks terrible, in my opinion. So that's why, again, you know, even me with my handful of shares, probably going to hit the sell button and just move on. And it's unfortunate because I literally built up a handful of dollars and I bought shares of two stocks that I disclosed. I always disclose. I bought shares of Fubo. I bought shares of STEM. And yeah, both are down. Fubo just had a great quarter. We just looked at them. And of course, STEM just completely falls off a cliff. So like I said, you win some, you lose some, but you got to be in it to win it. You got to risk it to get the biscuit, like they say. But let's see if we have any pivot points real quick. I'm sure we're well below these pivot points, but what are we looking at here? Weekly. And you can see, look, it's not even on the screen, but you can see next support level, next pivot point down, 35 cents. And what I say, it doesn't have to stop at 57. It can go to 37. And in my opinion, they're probably going to take it to 37 cents. And even on the daily, you can see we had a support level at about 97 cents, which it basically tried to hold right there going into earnings. Now the bottom support level, 72 cents. But the stock's down in the 50s, right? So that's what I mean. We clean broke straight through these support levels. And now potentially we could be going into the 40s and into the 30s. So that's why, in my opinion, if we're going to continue to slide another 30, 40, 50% from this level, and then we're going to potentially get a reverse stock split announcement, and then we're going to potentially start selling off after the price adjustment of the reverse split, that's going to translate to maybe 70, 80% more of a drop from this current level. Not this, from this current level. Which is why I'm saying, again, you know, we've seen stocks like Fubo go through reverse stock splits. finally bottom out. They got the losses in check. Now the app is growing and the company is potentially on the up and up. The problem is, while the same thing could happen with something like STEM, it is now going to, in my opinion anyway, that bottom, quote unquote bottom, may not happen for at least another 6 to 12 months. So you really have to ask yourself, how much risk can you take? You know, if the company virtually like almost goes out of business and this investment starts heading down towards zero, will you be able to take that complete loss? And I know a lot of you may be able to. But again, you know, if you're a smaller, younger investor, I mean, listen, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. And you just have to take what the market gives you, and you have to move on. And this is why, again, I like to look at fundamentally sound, strong, growing stocks, because this is the type of risk that we're talking about. But yeah, I had to do an update video again because I didn't think you guys, you know, I didn't want you guys to bring it up and say, oh, you know, it's down 40% now. You know where to be found. You know, like we know some people like that are out there. You know, they pump up a stock, they talk a big game, and then when it doesn't work out, they'll block your comments or they'll stop looking at the stock. You know what I'm saying? Like that, and that's what I mean. I can't do that to you guys. Can't do that to you guys. And had to do an update here, and I know I'm getting, you know, derivative here with my comments, but there's only so much you can say, and it's just really unfortunate. It's just very unfortunate what transpired here with STEM Inc. But that's pretty much it. I'll end it there. And again, even though this may really suck for a lot of you, you know, like they say, you have to try to learn from these experiences. And now moving forward, maybe if you see a company with some mixed earnings or a couple of bad quarters, you know, maybe something like STEM is going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. So now you wouldn't even risk it moving forward. You know, maybe you would be even more cautious, even more diligent, looking at, you know, earnings and the backlog and, you know, what the company's trying to say versus what is actually happening, right? So we have to learn from these experiences, not sit here and sulk. Oh, we're wrong. I lost money. Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we do that in the moment. And then I know it's rough, but you have to put it behind you. You have to leave your negativity at the door. And you have to go forward into the next day and try to look for bigger and better things. But yeah, I'll end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I can't wait. But more importantly, moving forward, I understand that these markets are very rocky, they're volatile, they're uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.